Andrew Raycroft is joining us. Razor, I want to start with Jim Montgomery. I was reading about how basically he's got some time off. I think it was 1 week. They had three games in the season, 3 days off, giving this team a lot of rest, and it's obviously paying off, especially in the third periods. How much credit do you give Jim Montgomery for this start?
Oh, you have to give him a lot. And I think just the fact that it's a new voice, I think any coach would have gotten some positive results out of this group after having a coach here for 6 years, hearing the same thing. I think the new voice is big. But Jim Montgomery's won everywhere he's been, and he's always been known as a great players coach. He's well-respected by trainers, equipment managers, guys around the league love him. And I think with this kind of a group where the players kind of run how things work, for him to come in and recognize what they're good at, recognize what he doesn't need to touch, but then also help out and chip in with some of the things he thinks they can do better. He's nailed it perfectly, and it's just been a great fit all in all.
Who is the Bruins trainer? Who's in charge of rehab?
Scotty Waugh. Scotty Waugh.
That guy he needs to get an award, Razor.
Yeah. They got to give him 7th Player of the Year.
Yeah, right.
He'll be 7th Player of the Year, right? It's unbelievable.
Is he personally responsible? Because a lot of times these guys, at least in football, like they'll rehab somewhere else, but all these guys stayed in town and rehabbed, and obviously both guys I'm talking about, Marchand and McAvoy, obviously both came back early.
Yeah, and Grizzlick as well, So yeah, those guys were basically around. And listen, this is another reason why all of us live in Boston too, right? The best medical facilities in the world are here. This is why we love being from here and love living here. So that helps as well. And there's a team behind it. But Scotty was here, and Scotty spent as much time with those guys as he did with his family the last few months.
So obviously the Bruins couldn't have gotten off to a better start than they're in right now. And you read all these comments from the different players about the energy that Montgomery brings in and how they're connecting with him. But with a new coach like this, you said responding to a new voice. How long does that honeymoon phase last? Because it's still quite early in the season.
Well, it for a group, it can last quite a while, I think. I believe personally sometimes those go away when some guys aren't playing as much, or you're a Mike Riley and you're down in the minors and you're on waivers. Those personal relationships can be strained at times. If you're only playing 6 minutes a night and you feel like you should be playing 16, that starts to wear. But again, I think this group collectively has a pretty good sense of what their roles are. And again, that's up to the coach explaining to what you're going to do and how you're going to help the team best. And if you understand that and accept it, then you can have a pretty good relationship and a pretty positive atmosphere for quite a while. Now, you lose 6-7 games in a row. That's no fun going to the rink, but this team has always, for the last 6-7 years, found ways to get out of that and understand that's part of the season.
We're talking to Andrew Raycroft and Razor. The offseason, people talking about Donnie Sweeney. We brought up last deadline. Bringing in Hampus Lindholm and locking this guy up, I don't know if it saved his job, but it was definitely a check mark, in his category. And him now with Connor Clifton, that second pairing. But Lindholm, I think, is third in the league in defensive scoring? And Clifton's been absolutely fantastic. But just tell me about the impact of Lindholm on that line with Clifton.
Yeah, Lindholm and Ullmark are the MVPs of this group. There's no question about that. And being able to get him in at the deadline, having him want to be in Boston, to sign that 8-year extension that he did. There was talk that there was other teams in on it and offering Anaheim better, but Hampus wanted to come here and play here and sign here and live here. So he's been unbelievable. And you brought up the third in offensive categories, third in points for defensemen, but he's playing almost the most amount of shorthanded minutes, certainly on the list of top scorers. He's the highest shorthanded minutes, so he's doing it all over the ice. He's doing it in all three zones, and without Charlie McAvoy in the lineup, him coming in and playing 28, 29, 27 minutes in important nights has been a game changer for them.
So we're talking to Andrew Raycroft. Now I'm just looking at just the overall stats and they dominate like in every category. Third period dominance. They're unbeatable at home. I mean, everything. When you look at all these variables, okay, like they can't keep doing this, right? Something's got to give. Where do you think the weakness is with this team right? Like, where do you think ultimately, when it's all said and done, okay, what do you think their biggest issue is going to be? Because it can't keep going, right?
No. It can't. And I mean, I've probably been saying that for 6, 7, 8 games that it can't be going, but they've continued. I think the biggest thing that I'm looking at going forward is the schedule, the teams that they've played. They've hit the teams at the right time. And you guys know in seasons that you go through, there's certain periods where you play a really good team who's struggling and you luck out with that, like the St. Louis Blues, like the Calgary Flames. All have come in through here on losing streaks. And we originally looked at the schedule saying those are tough games, but they weren't because of the schedule. I think going ahead, we look at Tampa and Florida and Tampa and Carolina. Those teams are all coming up. So I think the schedule gets tougher, and I also think they have to get out on the road more. They've been lucky as well playing these games at home, and they've got off to a good start, and that momentum's carried over. So I think what they're doing on the ice is pretty repeatable. But I think the competition's going to be a little stiffer. Being on the road's going to wear them down a little bit more. You just find ways to lose a little bit more often. But again, on the ice, what they're doing isn't completely crazy. They're just going to go through a slow streak at certain times, more because of the schedule on the road.
So Jeremy Swayman was back at practice. What does the road to getting him back on the ice in actual game time look like, and how critical is that at this point in the season, as early as it is?
Well, it's not critical because of Ullmark's playing ability at this point, is it, for lack of a better word. But you do want to get him some rest. You do need to, like I just talked about, December's a busy month on top of the holidays and family in and out and just the extras that all the players have to deal with holiday season. So you want to have another guy to spell off, and I think the sooner the better in that respect. I would say with Jeremy getting on the ice today and taking real shots and real fire, that you're within a week at this point of getting him back into a game. And again, you want to get him back into a game sooner than later as well, because you don't want extra rust to accumulate over the next couple of weeks. So it's not vital, fortunately, because of the way Ullmark's playing, but you do need to get him in there and get a 2-person rotation going again.
Talking to Andrew Raycroft, and Andrew, obviously, being a goaltender, I got to ask you about Ullmark, because last year I thought he was good. This year, he's one of the best. He's probably the best goalie in the league at this point, if you look at some of the metrics. So you tell me, what has been the biggest difference that you're seeing with his play?
Well, and he was good last year.
Just in front of him?
Yeah, well, I think it helps. It certainly helps when you're getting 4 or 5 goals, right? Like we've seen a couple of the game he struggled in Pittsburgh. He gives up 5 goals, he gets yanked, he gets put back in, and they still find a way to win. So that's fortunate, and that's you're not probably going to get away with most nights. And he would have had 1 extra loss. Swayman doesn't get injured, maybe he doesn't get back. We can play through that, but I think overall he was the best goaltender that any team in the NHL could have signed a year and a half ago in that summer. He was the best one. He was great in Buffalo. His numbers in Buffalo on a really bad team were always very good. He found ways to win with that team. I think coming here now is he's comfortable. The first time you get traded, a little different, goaltending a little bit different, a new coach, goalie coach that you have to listen to and hear and try and figure out what works for you, what doesn't. So I think comfortably he's in a good spot. And I think he's got his game closer to what we saw from Tuukka Rask over the years, where it's very quiet. It's get to your spot. Don't overplay shots. Don't reach for shots. Allow it to play big and keep your shoulders up and have the puck hit you rather than chase the game, which I think he had a tendency to do, both because he's athletic, but also because he played in a system that needed it. Mm-hmm. It was necessary in Buffalo. Here, it isn't. Because, again, like you said, the centers in this system play really solid defense. The numbers are always good for the goaltenders here, so that's certainly a big part of it, but he's playing at a really high level because he's playing very quiet. It's almost do nothing. Yeah. The best way to be a goaltender is do nothing. Let the puck hit you.
Hey, last one for me quickly. Do you think Montgomery keeps Pasta up with Bergeron and Marchand, or is that just something you kind of tinker with throughout the entire year and we go see him go back and forth?
They're going to go back and forth. He's been tinkering a lot. I can't figure out what the rhyme or reason is a lot of times. I'm still trying to get a handle on that because there's been so much movement, both on the top 6 and the bottom 6, and Zaka and where he fits in. And So no, I don't think it's permanent. I think ideally they'd love to have the Bergeron, Marchand, DeBrusque together, and then have Pass on that second line, split those guys up. But it's an easy one to go back to. It really is.
All right, listen, Razor, we appreciate it, man. Always fun talking bees with you, and look forward to talking to you again.
Love it, gang. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
See you.
There it is,
Thank
Andrew
you.
Raycroft from NESN breaking down the Bruins, who are on fire.